Some Christmas Eve news, a new commitment. Yeah, we got that.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. My name's AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, and I want to welcome you all to our daily Locked On Boston College podcast. We do this 5 days a week and talk BC sports. This is the place to find it. I hope you guys enjoy everything that we talk about here on today's show. Now, we have three things to talk about. I'm confident Boston College is going to beat Nebraska. I'm going to explain why. I'm also going to tell you a few transfer portal names that have popped into the portal over the last week that may be worth noting. I'm not sure how high BC is on them, but I think they're absolutely worth talking about. I'll explain who those guys are in a moment. And then the big news of the day, Christmas Eve, Boston College lands a transfer, and I'm going to explain who that is. So let's kick this off by talking about Favor Bate. I had to ask to make sure I had the pronunciation right, and it's pronounced exactly what it sounds like, from Merrimack. This is the second commitment from Merrimack College, and he is an edge rusher, joining Amir Johnson, their offensive lineman. And this is a kid coming out of high school. He came from, I believe, Maryland, who had 2.5 sacks as a true freshman. Good numbers for a true freshman. Had a Temple offer, as a freshman. Adds a second edge rusher to this class. Now he's 6'3", 240. Looks the part. I mean, his stats are impressive for only playing limited snaps. But what BC is doing here, I know some folks are going to start gnashing their teeth because this is another FCS school, and are we really going to build our roster off Merrimack transfers? No, you're not. But this is another kid. They watched the film, they watched the tape, and they liked what they saw. You have two edge rushers leaving with Donovan Azaraku and Nedwick Paula heading to the NFL and out of eligibility. You had to get some guys. You could not rebuild what you had with the guys that you have and the freshmen coming in. You can't do it with freshmen. You just can't, especially with like Israel Oladapopo, who's coming this summer, and Jaden Fry. I believe he's coming early, but it doesn't matter. True freshmen, unless you have blue chips, my thoughts is like you can't rely on them. They can obviously jump up and play soon, but you don't want to make that your hill to die on. You want to be able to have experienced backups, and that's what Favor Bate is. He played a year. They must like his tape. They're very excited to have him on campus, and he's going to be coming in January. He's joining fellow defensive lineman that they also added, Onye Nwosisi from Valparaiso. So you're starting to see a theme here, this FCS theme, and I've talked about it a lot. And I'm starting to hear reasons why I'm starting to think this is why it's happening. I've said all along, I think BC is much more, it's a cost-benefit analysis. If they're going to spend money to get a kid in the portal, they want to see tape, more recent tape against college-level players. And these FCS kids, all of them that are coming in, they've had 600 snaps, 700 snaps. Bate is a little bit more on the fringier edge of that, but all the other guys have. You want to get that film so you can see what you're going to try to develop. When you're bringing in, if you want to go for, Joe defensive end from Arkansas who hasn't played yet, he's going to cost you more because he came from Arkansas and maybe he's a 4-star. Ooh, 4-star. But you haven't seen him play, so it's a huge risk. The other piece I think that they're doing this because of is I'm starting to hear more and more buzz, and this could just be, behind the scenes kind of stuff, but it sounds like the cost of players is continuing to rise drastically. I saw, I forget, it might have been On3 that put this up, and I apologize whoever had it, that the new guy, Mensa, the quarterback from Tulane that went to Duke and unseated Malik Murphy, who I thought was fine this year. I don't know. I honestly don't understand this at all. That he's getting $4.5 million this year to play 11 games. That tells you where things are at. And there's been other articles I've seen where just, borderline roster players, they're all costing more. BC, as we know, they did a great job with this Friends of the Heights campaign. And in 1 month, they raised $2.4 million. That's awesome. That's really good. But BC's still behind the 8 ball. And they're still struggling to keep up with the NIL stuff. They are focusing on keeping the guys that they have. You want to be able to keep KP Price. You want to be able to keep Ashton McShane and Lewis Bond and, your running backs like Turbo. And you need to be able to pay them. That's just the way it works now. And the NIL money that you're bringing in is going to ensure that they stay because they're happy here, but money talks, right? Money's going to be the factor all along. So BC's going to be able to make a comparable package to some of these other schools to keep their own guys before they go out and shop on others. I just don't see BC right now, the way the Wild West is going with this portal. I don't see them going out there and just, willy-nilly buying guys. It's just not what they're doing. They got Dylan Larnigan, but that wasn't just a willy-nilly buying guys. Bill O'Brien was his coach before, so he knows him. I think BC will. I think of this almost like free agency with professional sports, right? When free agency opens for I think of NFL. NFL is a big one. It's like a mad orgy of like spending, and like you're buying there are people out there spending on contracts that are just stupid, and like you're just watching it going, they're gonna regret that one in 2 years. They're gonna regret this one. It's gonna hurt them, and it's lots of people up front making lots of big money deals that aren't the best financial decisions. But then you see, and it used to happen a lot with the Patriots, even when they were good. Bill Belichick would go in and then find the deals that he could get. If I were a betting man, I don't think this whole class is going to be all FCS guys. I think right now, a lot of schools, Texas Tech is a big one, LSU, they're starting to spend a lot of money. And I think they're going to start to run out of what they have, or they're just not going to have needs anymore. So there's going to be good players out there that aren't going to be able to demand the cost that some of these other players are demanding. And I think that's where BC can step in and get some, quality Power 5 guys. So I get the sense that could happen. I get the sense that maybe, when they're looking ahead, there's some Power 5 guys out there. And in a moment, I'm going to tell you about 2 Power 5 guys that if you've listened to this podcast during their recruitment, you know exactly who they are and why I think BC may want to take another look at them because they might add to what BC needs. I'll get into all of that in just a moment. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can finish the season with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. On Wednesday during Christmas, I had anytime touchdowns by Travis Kelce and Lamar Jackson. Boom, hit it. Great win right there. But you could also do how many points each team will score, how many yards the quarterback will throw, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance for $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Thank you all who have made us your first listen every day. And if you have not done so already, also check out Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They talk everything about the Atlantic Coast Conference. Check them out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, BC has 7 commitments in the transfer portal. Bill O'Brien has said recently that he's looking between 8 and 10. And things could change. They could get more. I'm really, as I said on the Christmas Eve episode, I'm still curious to see if a player or two enters the transfer portal after the Pinstripe Bowl. They're gonna have to get their paperwork in quickly, but I think they can still do it. I'm just curious to see if there's a few players that want to play that game and then enter the portal. So they may have a few extra spots if that's the case. Now, as I mentioned in the first segment, Boston College has landed a bunch of guys either from lower conference power, FBS teams like FAU or a ton of FCS schools. And I kind of tease that I don't think that's going to be the case for all the time. I think it's where it's going right now, but I think there's a chance that there's going to be Power Five guys or Power Four teams that'll have guys that BC are going to look at. I'm always keeping an eye on who enters the portal. I'm always in tune to who the staff is checking out. I know, there's lots of film watching, lots of phone calls that they have to make to see if a guy's a fit, see if they would be interested. There's lots of things that go into whether a guy can actually transfer here. So, two names came up in the last week of guys that my antenna went up big time on, and one of them was more curious if they would actually be interested, and the other one was definitely like, oh, maybe this is a guy they could get. The first is on the defensive side of the ball. We just landed an edge rusher, but we're going to talk about Chibuzi Onwuka's brother, Obinna Onwuka from West Virginia, excuse me. This was an edge rusher. I don't believe he ever got to take an official visit. I think he visited West Virginia and then just committed. He was a class of 24, so he was a true freshman this past year. He was rated an 88 when he came in, and he entered the portal. Obviously, Boozy, his brother, was a big defensive player for BC for years. BC had a good connection with this kid. There's got to be people on the staff that still know him. The one question I had through all this is Jason Tudrian, who is the kind of de facto player development guy, is gone. He was the guy that recruited him. Their defensive line coach, what with Halfley to the Packers, most of the entire defensive staff is gone. So I was wondering if they might still look at him. Now, he clearly might have some interest. He was interested in BC before, but he pulled the trigger to go to West Virginia. Now the West Virginia is going to Rich Rodriguez. They have a new head coach. Things have changed. So he entered the portal. He could be someone to watch for. And yes, I know BC has two edges, but Onwuka, he's 6'4", 233, good size. Obviously he had some talent coming out of high school. Didn't play at all for West Virginia this past season. I have said all along, 3 edge rushers for this transfer portal wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. There's just going into next year, I'm feeling pretty okay where BC is at in almost every position. I've said all along that edge rusher, they got to figure something out because you don't have much there. You're losing Ezeraku, who is All-American, but I was just thinking, like, in general, like, you just don't have the bodies for it. You need guys. So a guy like Onwuka, that could be someone. He doesn't have, he didn't play this year. He's redshirted. So you'd be able to get him for 4 years. So basically it'd be like treating him as like getting a recruit. But he's been around for a season. So he's got the college mentality and knows what that piece is about. Will it actually happen? I don't know. The big question with transfer portal guys, like, yes, I can connect him to BC, but what is he looking for? There's a reason he jumped in the portal. Is it to get closer to home? Is he not happy with his NIL package? Is another coach already talking to him? A lot of times you guys hate hearing it, but there's coaches constantly talking to these kids and trying to get them into the portal, or staff members or friends or teammates or whatever it is. There's people trying all the time. So I don't know what that is, but I wouldn't be surprised if BC tries to kick the tires on this one, because I know that they were really interested in him at first. Just didn't happen. The second one I think is even more intriguing because there's still a coaching connection there, and that's Josiah Martin of Cal. If you have listened to this podcast before, Josiah Martin was committed to BC up until October of 2023. And the reason he decommitted was Jeff Halfley was full on tailspin, and guys were just bailing left and right, and he got a better offer and left. I thought he was pretty well committed to BC at that point, but he ended up at Cal. He played this year, 7 games, had 12 catches for 126 yards. He had a touchdown in the bowl game they just played. Um, with Onwuka, I mentioned him. He doesn't have the staffing connection, which I think is really important. I think that's a big piece of what we're seeing with guys that they're interested in. Josiah Martin does. Like his main recruiter was Daryl Wyatt, and Daryl Wyatt's still there. He's from Texas. Wyatt is deep down there, and BC has been looking at wide receivers. Like they brought in VJ Wilkins, but I still seen them kind of checking out, and I still think there's still interest in some wide receivers in the portal. What better guy to get than someone you recruited all along? He bailed, but can you blame him? You all saw what was going on with BC at that point. Like he had to do what was best for him and his family. BC was not going in the right direction. He wanted to stay, it just didn't work out. Maybe now with O'Brien actually getting some consistency going here and feeling like the program is going in the right direction, Josiah Martin might be a guy that, hey, he could fit in. Like you got a guy who now has experience. You could plug him in and play him. He's super talented. Like when they lost him last year, that one was a bummer because he had a big senior season in Texas. He was, the talk of a lot of different like 247, different Texas high school recaps. Like he was always on that. And he's looked good at the college level. So in terms of getting like a power 4 type player, like sign me up if you can get Josiah Martin here. And if Daryl Wyatt can kind of, fix that, make those amends, that would be great. Now, I'm not sure where he's at. I don't know what he's looking for. He seemed to have a decent thing going at Cal. So there may be something else going on. There's another school that's looking at him and he's interested in that. But we should have to wait to see. Now, unfortunately, with the portal, the weekends are usually the big moments where they can have official visits. Or they can do it anytime at this point, but this week is just weird. Between Christmas, the bowl, that the team's not even. I think the bowl. I'm 90% sure the team is in New York right now. They're just not there, so you can't really do visits because there's no one to visit. So you have to wait until at least Sunday next week, this week, and then go into next week. So things are quiet. Like I usually get whiffs of official visits, and I haven't heard anything recently. But again, credit to the staff; they've done a great job of hiding things. This guy, Favor Bate, I had not heard of him at all until he committed. It was that quiet. So Josiah Martin, Abuni Onwuka, Chibuzi's brother, are just two names that popped up, and flags came up. Maybe they're guys that they look at, and both, one from West Virginia, one for Cal. That would be a kind of nice little mix in there too, in terms of what BC's looking at. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to get a little cocky here, and I'm going to tell you why I think BC is going to beat Nebraska. I'll explain all of that in just a moment. I love going to games. I love going to concerts. Gets me out of my house. I'm going to be there. And when I go, I love to use Game Time. Game Time uses a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time, they have some great features, including all-in prices. Toggling this feature shows you the total upfront. No surprises. Some of those other sites, it's like a gut punch when you actually go and hit that cart button. It's not that way with the all-in pricing on Game Time. And then with Seat Views, you know exactly what you're getting. So all you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKED ONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. I want to shout out all of my Eagle nesters here on the Locked On Podcast Network. These are my insiders. They join me on a subtext program. If you want to join, it's free for the first month. No, you don't have to use it after that. It's just to try it out and use code Bill O'Brien Monster on checkout. Try it out. Get to talk to me. Text with me. I think you'll like it. All right. On Saturday, we have the upcoming Pinstripe Bowl between Boston College and Nebraska. This is a big game for BC as they get the chance for the first time in, what was it, like 19 years to win 8 games. Obviously, there's a lot of momentum here. BC won 3 out of the last 4 games. When a lot of folks had just written BC off as a team that wasn't going to make a bowl game, they surged through the end of the season, averaging 35 points per game in the month of November with wins over 3 bowl teams with Syracuse, UNC, and Pitt. Now, you get Nebraska in front of you, and I'm telling you right now, I like Boston College's chance in this game. I think Nebraska has lost a lot on their roster, and I think when you look at the teams, right, BC's going to potentially lose a lot too. Donovan Nazaraku, if he doesn't play, is a big loss. Ozzie Trapillo, if he doesn't play, is a pretty big loss. That being said, look at the units. Okay, BC's offense has not changed at all. It's very good. Right now, they're playing very good. Nebraska's offense, not so good. Dylan Raiola has a lot of potential, and I don't want to write him off because I think he has the potential to be a really good quarterback. But if you're going to ask me right now, AJ, pick out one unit that I think is best in this group, it's BC's offense. You're averaging 35 points a game. You got Grayson and James doing all sorts of stuff. And other than Trapillo and maybe Jack Conley, and if you lose Jack Conley, you lose Jack Conley, they really haven't. They're going to have a full, their arsenal going into this game. They're going to be in good shape. That's what I like there. Defensively, a little bit more concerned. But what makes me think BC's in better shape here is when you compare like BC's offense versus Nebraska's defense, Nebraska's offense versus BC's defense. I think BC's offense versus Nebraska's defense is going to be the biggest factor in this game. I think BC's defense should be good enough to keep Nebraska from scoring a ton of points. They're going to be without one of their top wide receivers who's opting out of this game. Dylan Raiola hasn't been super consistent. And BC has shown that they can build up the talent to get ready for these games. I trust Tim Lewis that he's going to have something planned that's going to prevent this defense from getting shredded. I think that's what's going to happen. So I look at how these different units pair up. I think BC's offense against Nebraska's defense. You asked me this about a month ago. I would have said, that's still pretty worrisome. But Nebraska is gutted. They have lost a lot through opt-outs, through the transfer portal. They've lost their defensive coordinator. They've lost a lot, and they're going through a transition here. Both of these teams want it, but I think BC has more talent there. I think that's why I think BC is going to win this game. I think they've got, the team is set. Unless it's some huge surprise that Bill O'Brien is not telling us about, I think they're going to have most of their guys there, minus, a few here and there that we've talked about on this podcast. I think they'll be ready to go. Now, for the preview of this game, for tomorrow's episode, we'll have Mitch Wolf on. And Mitch and I will talk about this game. He's going to give you the X's and O's. He'll give you everything that you want. Mitch is good with that stuff. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you, everyone who helped us get over 2,000. We're at 2,007 subscribers for a Boston College podcast. That's pretty great. I mean, my videos get more hits than BC's athletics stuff. It's not even close. So I love each and every one of you that have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And if this is your first time, I want to welcome you. We're a daily Boston College podcast. We do this 5 days a week. Talk about everything. And I hope you guys all had a Merry Christmas. If you had a great day, that's awesome. I did. I spent time with my family. My kids were great, and it's magical. When you have kids that are that age, you can't beat Christmas on those days. Well, thank you all so much. I'll see you guys all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.